today to have Josh Starkey in the studio with Emily and me. Josh, thanks for joining us. Thank you for being here and sharing your ideas about music and songwriting with us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really awesome to be here.
It is absolutely our pleasure. Yeah, and you've played the Voice in the Pen twice now, right?
3 times.
Three times, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I missed that part. Sorry.
Multiple spots.
Mm-hmm.
Waterline, Ted's, and Real Cafe.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are the 3 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
And you guys go out. You've done Mad Cats, I think.
We
Did you
do Mad Cats now. Yep. We
Yeah.
we rotate through 3 locations now, so it's pretty cool.
Yep, that is a good thing. And that's a nice venue for, I mean, anybody is going to enjoy playing that stage, but it's also a nice venue for larger acts, for bands, because everything's already there.
Yeah. We actually were going to go a few weeks ago and check a band out up there, and we got word ahead that it was slammed. So we decided against it. But
yeah. Stay away from the too much of a crowd.
Yeah.
it was a wait to get in, so we were like, let's not go.
Who waits anymore? So how long have you been writing songs?
I guess you could go back to, are we talking about like songs that I would play now?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we can distinguish between the two things.
Because there's something so cringe about.
Oh yeah, when you're
Yeah.
first starting, like songs that
Definitely.
lyrics that you wrote.
Right.
Lyrics when I was 14, like I'm not playing those songs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I was right about 19 when I started writing something that I would play,
Mhm.
In front of other musicians, so somewhere around there, where I would actually pull it out of the bedroom,
Mhm. Mhm.
and
Right. Try to show it off,
Right.
or
Yeah.
at least
Right.
get some sort of feedback maybe on it. What is your writing process like? I'm sure it's evolved, but
definitely. I mean, a lot of the songs that I wrote, in my early years, were originally poems. I never stopped writing poems. I was a slave to the rhyme from very early on. And so a lot of that dictated the way I wrote in my earlier writing career. But as I've gotten better playing guitar, I just find a melody. I'm going to say this word wrong. A melody, and then I'll kind of pick up a line that I'd written down for whatever reason that stuck when I got out of the shower, and then I'll build a song around that. So it's so ass backwards from the way I used to do things, which is, let's see if I can force this melody to sound like it needs to fit these words. So that's
melody line, then words, and then build from there. And we hear that actually a fair amount. That's not uncommon, I think. And we definitely hear from different people experimenting, with different things. So if they're in one way, that seems to kind of work, a lot of folks are also trying something else. So if people are in that, boy, I hear the hook and I hear the entire chorus, and then I build out from there, like, maybe a chord progression, and then what's the melody line that's going to go on top of that? That's cool. What are you listening to right now that you feel like really informs your writing, or is sort of is inspirational or aspirational for you?
A lot of Jason Isbell. The documentary that just came out, I was just enamored by his process of recording stuff, because that's something that I've been so hesitant to do, is actually pin down the way I want a song to sound, forever. What I mean?
right.
Yeah.
So that's just in a lot of ways, it's a chicken shit kind of way of thinking, but and the way he talked about, you can only create something once, and after that, you're just trying to remanufacture it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what's so I guess, scary in a lot of ways.
You want it to be exactly how you want it the first time you record it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. Part of me feels like that's not even possible, in a way, because like I think we're always growing as a musician, as singers and musicians, we're always growing. And so, the way that you play something 10 years ago, maybe shouldn't be the way that you play it now. I mean, unless you're like, Jimi Hendrix didn't really live long enough to, to do that sort of stuff over and over and over again in a way. But I feel like, recording is also, in a way, just a snapshot of this is where me and that song were at that time. Right. I think that's the reason I'm such a big fan of the Grateful Dead, is because I never played anything the same way twice. And I'm like, yes, there's license for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see your point too, because I used to feel like that as well. Like it has to be exactly how I want it, and then there's still things that I've recorded that I'm like, oh, I wish I would have maybe added a bridge or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to re-record a song that I put out like 10 years ago. And because I feel like there are some things that I want to change.
Mm-hmm. But. Well, I guess I was about 22. I started playing with this band in Lynchburg, Virginia called Turning Back Trio. And the idea behind the Turning Back was going back and trying to incorporate some of my originals. And I actually went back and rewrote one of those old songs, like just with the same concept in mind, but with my new style of playing. Mm-hmm. I actually just threw that together a couple days ago.
Nice.
So it was nice, like, to have the hay in the barn already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's something that Nick Black told me. He was like, you've already got the hay in the barn, you've got all these songs.
Yeah.
Now you just gotta work
them out.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Adapt them to how you play and sing now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I say all this stuff about like how like a good way to look at it is that it's a snapshot in time, but I've like 6 weeks been waiting to say yes to go ahead and master the ones I've been recording. Just like every time I look at them, I'm like, and I finally did it this week. It was a lot of trepidation. Yeah. Like, well, I'm not really turning back now, so yeah. I hope they're good.
I have a song. A lot of my music has very romanticized alcoholism undertones, But one of the songs that I wrote, I started writing it a few years ago. Is called "No Saturday." No Saturday than a Saturday, spent without you. And as I was writing it, I wrote that first part out because I just love wordplay, puns. I'm a dad at heart, when it comes to wordplay and those kinds of jokes. But I wrote that, and I was like, that song could be about anybody, Mm-hmm. No matter who's listening to it, they can listen to it and say,
they can relate to it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But I was like, this is just about whiskey. I'm going to write it like I would about whiskey.
So
like it's whiskey's fault whiskey left me,
Mm-hmm.
That's cool because it's, in a way, it's ambiguous. And so people can just be like, well, it's about this for me. Or they might come up to you and say, oh, I thought it was about this. And then you're like, oh, that's cool. Okay. That's
I
a
can
cool
see that.
Exactly. Like Bottles and Hearts. I sang that for a group of guys that are a jam band in Rhinebeck, New York. And I sang that for a group of guys, and this guy was like, man, I get that. I feel that, because when you're running out of whiskey, time gets tough. And I was like, that's interesting that you saw it like that, but that's what it meant to you,
right. Right.
So, but for me, it was like, when the whiskey gets on a roll, it's going to be some tough times to follow,
right.
But it's so interesting that somebody else listened to it and said, he's running out of whiskey. So,
Yes.
Two very
Totally.
different viewpoints.
Yeah. I have, this makes me think of, I have a song called Fall Air, and I have a line in about an 8-ball, and it's about an actual like magic 8-ball. And someone was like, is that about like drugs? Like, you know, like an 8-ball? And I'm like, no, not at all. And now I know that that goes through people's minds, because like I was just completely naive to that. I was just like, no,
But
that's not at all.
it's just like anything, you know, when you walk through an art museum, what does this painting mean to you? You know, it could mean something totally different, even though it's obviously 3 circles in a triangle.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's gonna mean something to somebody else.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
One person might look at it and run screaming out of the museum. You know, another person might look at it and fall to their knees weeping and with joy. You never can tell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first voice and pen I did at the Reel was with the Grays, who are awesome, and the guy came up to me at the end of the show, and he was like, "Man, you've been through some stuff." And that is such a, like I said, that's such a huge compliment for somebody to feel it.
Right.
That's the way I want to write music.
Came across. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want it to punch you in the chest. You know, I want you to catch your breath. You know.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I think and this is another common theme I think that we see and hear when we chat with songwriters, is that, you know, when we're doing our job really well, that's what we're doing, is we're bringing people to a specific emotional place. And it may be a couple specific emotional places. And what's weird is sometimes in the meantime, you know, you may be headed to a different emotional place than they are, but a lot of times it does. I'd say like 80-90% of the time it translates to like, oh, this is heavy, and I can so relate to this. You know, like this year, anytime that there's been a song about somebody passing, you know, my wife and I are both like, woo, immediately, because it's so relatable to our worlds right now.
Right.
And that happens to everybody, like all the time. We all go through those phases, but I think that's a great way to write. How have your experiences changed your writing?
That's tough. I mean, I guess clarity in a lot of ways has changed. You know, definitely helps to have that on my side, or as a tool of the trade. You know, because a lot of times I fell into such a hole of just kind of writing about the party, writing about the ride, you know, whatever, and I think in a lot of ways, like I said, those undertones are there, you know? So there's always a part of me that feels like I'm not flaunting my recovery, but I still need to give it a little bit of credit where it's due at some point in the song, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that's, like I said, that undertone is there now.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the clarity piece is super important, though. Like, I mean, I think in a way, all of at least for me, and maybe not all songwriters, but I struggled with clarity probably in any way at the beginning of my writing. And then, like, I think as you mature and like watch other songwriters, one of the things that happens is you start to get real efficient with words. You know, there's this process where, you know, the right 6 words together was like, whoa, you know, and you know, I think that does come with experience. It comes with songwriting experience, but it also comes, you know, with life experience, because when you go through, you know, sort of extreme things, you really start to boil down to the essentials, to the basics. You know, which is, you know, I think where I was thinking about that line that we were talking about earlier, like, you know, the basics are like, get up, put your shoes on, you know, brush your teeth, move through the day. You know, sometimes we all have to start somewhere at a different points, and I can relate to that. Anyways, but clarity stands out to me. That makes a lot of sense, and I think I feel that like in your music, which we're excited to hear some of that in a little bit.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is with that clarity, in a lot of ways, comes new feelings and the way you process, you know, because putting, you know, Monday, 4 years for myself. I'll see how far.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
But having that, it's starting a whole different process when it comes to how you're feeling and how you can deal with it, and that's the beauty of that clarity, like I said, is to be able to write in a way that you can accurately describe your feelings besides just numbness,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
definitely.
I think that's a learning process that we all sort of have to go through. Is it's harder to deal with feelings until you can really identify what they are, right? And if you're not used to doing that, and I think this all really pertains to songwriting, though, because it's so emotional. Like the best songs that we hear are not the ones; they're the ones that impact you. They're the ones that can fundamentally change your life, that can bring tears to your eyes, or that can make you laugh because they're just so clear and truthful. But I feel like that's another shared quality that songwriters that I look up to have, like Jason Isbell being one, as I think that they have an immense emotional understanding, in a way, because like you're also writing not just about the emotion, but you're writing the emotion in a way, like you're creating the emotion with words. So.
Accurately describing something that just as easily you or I had gone through. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's so beautiful about the way he writes is you could be reading your own diary or journal or whatever,
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like the need to mention this all the time. And we talked about it with Zach before, that music is just such a therapeutic thing. And I think for so many of us that write, it is our therapy. It's like if you, instead of like journaling, maybe you might, write a song. And that really is so like, close to your heart. And like, I mean, I've written songs before where I just start crying while I'm writing them. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I started, even if it doesn't become a song, because that
got it out,
that got the tears out. And that's, you have to feel that. So,
yeah. And I mean, I think in a way, like back to like the writing process is all of that, the journaling and the songwriting, they're hard in a way for me to separate because it may come out as prose at some point, but like it's a good way to look at it. The hay's already in the barn. Like, if you write every day, it doesn't mean you write a song every day, but if you express your feelings regularly and keep track of those, then you have like this entire, now I'm going to write a song. Let me go through my library of things in a way that's a little easier than like, I'm just going to make something up on the spot, which does happen. Like sometimes they write themselves, but a lot of times it's, word Tetris.
Right. Exactly.
absolutely.
So do you have plans to record your music? I know you got thoughts about it, but...
Oh, well, I got a buddy of mine in Lynchburg. We're leaving this Saturday, actually, to go to Central Virginia for about a month and a half before we head to New York. And while in Virginia, I'm going to get with my friend Daniel, and we're going to try to record where I'm at, right where I'm at and where I'm happy with, like the two songs I'm going to play for you today, like that. I think I got them. I think they're right where I want them, and I think I'm ready to start putting some Tetris pieces around it.
Yeah,
awesome.
I like it. Can you tell us a little bit about the two songs you're going to play today?
Well, Bottles and Hearts, as I talked about earlier, it's funny. I talked about it at the first Voice and Pen. The girl that played before me, she was talking about, this is a breakup song, and it's kind of it's a love song for whiskey, and kind of how I've grown outside of it, and Good Enough is about this girl that I'm with, wonderful girl, and it's also hand in hand about the person that I used to be and not losing that person, because when you go through a change like sobriety, it's so hard to distinguish what part of you is that person
Mm-hmm.
that people used to love to be around, and what part of it was just the booze, you know?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, good enough is saying that as long as I'm still who I am, then that's good enough.
That's great, man. That's a great perspective. I think there are so many. I think when we're all honest with ourselves, there are a lot of choices that we have to make about that. Like, you know, what parts of the person that I've been do I want to move forward? Do I want to continue to have present in my life, right? You know what I mean? I think
just like songwriting.
Yeah. What do we get rid of?
This line is garbage.
You're going to the cutting room
This
floor.
one's good.
Bye-bye.
This line is good. It could use some
Editing.
work
Yeah.
and some nurturing.
awesome.
Yes.
But
Maybe it could come a little stronger with that next line, but you know, we'll hang on to it for a minute.
right. Don't be scared.
No. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything that we didn't ask you about that we should have that you wanted to talk about that we failed to bring up?
Nope. I didn't pass out or clam up or
No, you did great.
anything.
Not anything. And now
I'm
we get to
still
hear
alive.
you. You're still alive. Now we get to hear you play music, though, which we're really excited about. Well,
We try
thank
to keep
you.
it pain-free.
Yeah, we try to make it pain-free, you know, even comfy seats and refreshments and
This
whatnot.
has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh, for being here. We appreciate you.
Whenever we're speaking, I find myself sneaking to the liquor store just to look at all the booze. But you catch me when I'm falling. If I'm racing and you're calling, I'll never fold a hand when I'm with you. Where I am, where I'll be, don't mean a thing at all if you ain't here with me. Who I am, is who I was, that's good enough. I was pouring out your wine when I thought about that line. Now the sink is painted with cheap Cabernet. If I wake you when you're sleeping, then darling, don't stop dreaming. I sing to you words I need to say. Where I am, where I be, don't mean a thing at all if you ain't here with me. Who I am, is who I was, that's good enough. Well, I had a thing for whiskey, but the makers didn't miss me. She just kissed me, sent me right back there in line. But when it comes to you, I'm anything but blue. Guess suburban's gonna have to wait this time. So I am where I'll be, don't mean a thing at all if you ain't here with me. Who I am, so I was, and that's good enough. So where I am, where I'll be, don't mean a thing at all if you ain't here with me. Who I am, so I was, and that's good enough. Who I am, so I was, and that's good enough. Bottles and hearts may break when they fall, but the whiskey that fills them won't fix them at all. Life had my share, but it was never enough. 'Cause when the whiskey got going got tough. People been saying that I'm up to no good. If the pain hasn't killed me like they thought that it would, well, I keep on smiling, 'cause I figured out this thing that's been driving, I can make it without. So bottles and hearts may break when they fall, but the whiskey that fills them won't fix them at all. Life had my share, but it was never enough. 'Cause when the whiskey got going got tough. And I still remember when my friends used to say, oh, just pick your poison to get through today. 20 years later, and I'm beginning to see that maker I was meeting, she put a hurtin' on me. So bottles and hearts may break when they fall, but the whiskey that fills them won't fix them at all. Life had my share, but it was never enough. 'Cause when the whiskey got going got tough. I've got a bottle, and I've got my heart. Yeah, one of them's empty, and I guess that's a start. No matter how sober, my next drink's in my hand, but that bottle's what's empty. My heart's full again. Just bottles and hearts may break when they fall, but the whiskey that fills them, it won't fix them at all. I've had my share, but it was never enough. 'Cause when the whiskey got going got tough. When the whiskey got going got tough.